Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Yo.
What up?
And just for the record, I did not fall for Brian's trick. He tried to get me to say the wrong name for the podcast, and I got it right, so there.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sure.
Rumors. Vicious rumors.
Yep. Filthy lies.
Well, I know the rules, so I know I've got to go first this week.
Yup.
Yup. So last week I had to work. I'm trying to think because it's been a long week and I'm running low on sleep today. So I apologize if I'm a little bit out of it. But yes, I had to work last week, and unfortunately, and this week, what's going on since then? I've been working, and Mom came to town. Yay!
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so my mom and my brother and my stepdad were all in town, which is fun. Always a good time, and lots of family stuffs. But, with family stuff always comes, a bit of the emotional hangover. So I'm feeling a little drained right now, but it was all good, all good stuff. It's hard to kind of put into words it's been a lot of ups and downs and stuff, but nothing significant, if that makes any sense. It's like lots of little stuff up and down. but nothing too crazy. Yeah. I don't
Like
have
normal?
yeah. Normal? Is
Like that word? That word?
Huh.
Is that what that's called? Huh. I don't experience it very often, but yeah, I guess it would be normal. So yeah, it's been a normal week and just kind of just chill, just cool, just relaxed and is what it is, and nothing too standoutish as far as too crazy or anything one way or another. So I'm
Sounds
sorry,
pretty freaking awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
boring tonight.
No, not at all.
No,
How
like
great
we've
is
said
that?
before, boring week is better than exciting bad week. We'll take it. Yeah.
It's been boring. So, I did watch Deadpool 2. So I did do some fun. So there we go. There's my fun for the week. I didn't just do nothing but work, but I did do some fun. So,
Cool.
but yeah, that's all I got. I don't know. Who wants to go next? I'm passing the torch early.
Wow, that was pretty fast.
That was pretty fast. I'll go. So I had a very productive couple of days off for my weekend, and at the time, even though I didn't, it's kind of interesting. It's not like I set out to be productive. Mm-hmm. It just ended up happening that way. And when I was all said and done with the weekend, I didn't necessarily do what I wanted to do over the weekend, but when I went to work on Sunday, I felt really good. Like I'd taken care of some business.
Nice.
And it was great. There were a couple things I just had hanging out there, and just finished them up, did some stuff, and there's a reason I put things off is because I have a real issue. It's the remnants of my black and white thinking. It's like, if I can't do it the right way, I'm not even going to bother. Mm-hmm. So that it just sits there, and it's like, but it's like I got in, I did it right. It felt good afterwards. I'm like, all right, this is great. And like I said, it's kind of called an audible in a way, but ended up being real great. One of the things from our last weekend show, this was interesting. Sharon finally listened to our podcast. For everyone listening, Sharon's my wife. She decided to Google my name, and the Crazy Life popped up, which I thought was cool. Mm-hmm. Because it used to be like jet ski stuff. Like right. It was literally like 10 years ago, if you'd have Googled my name, it was nothing but just results from jet ski competitions. Right. And so now it's Crazy Life. So she listened. She really enjoyed it. She was like, oh, it's because, she'll see your guys' faces when she walks by and we're Skyping, but she's never heard your voice, the voices, So, well, she didn't get to hear Jen last week, but right. She got to hear Brian. And she says, you're very sultry. You just magnetic personality, everything,
Yeah, it happens.
All those things,
Yeah. Sorry about your pending divorce, I know. No.
But that was fun, and we from last weekend's conversation about my little trip up to work at the middle of the night. Yes, the person was very generous with me, so I got to take Sharon and a friend. We all went out for breakfast on Saturday and went to this Sun Valley. The resort is owned by Sun Valley Company. Sun Valley Company is actually tied in with Sinclair Oil, and they have it's a big conglomerate, giant corporation. But Sun Valley itself has remained a kind of, to try to stay to their 1930s heritage of when this resort opened. So they have these quaint little aspects, but they've tried to modernize along the way to keep it being a functioning resort. But one of the things they had this little like a coffee shop that they turned into, it's basically like a Bavarian restaurant, and they have just unbelievable desserts and like pastries and stuff, and very artisan, but their food is very like traditional Bavarian fare, and it's a fun place to go eat. And so you go there and and people are they're even dressed in the little silly little outfits and stuff. And it's just a fun little nod. So we went there for, had a nice breakfast, and there was this one point we ended up talking about a list of, 15 cognitive distortions, which was kind of interesting. I was talking about how, like, it's a fundamental of our podcast is distorted thinking. And, as we were talking, we started, Sharon brought up, and we got in. Now, was that a fight or is that an argument? No, we got into a fight, which is really interesting to sit there and talk about us. We had a full on blowout, and then we talked about it afterwards. And then we moved on with our day. And that was my win for the week. Like, it felt really good to just honestly talk, not be defensive, and then to be able to look at it and just say, hey, yeah, that wasn't an argument. That was a fight. Like we picked a fight with each other, and then to have a great rest of the week as a result of it. And to me, that's also like, it's like, oh, wouldn't that make it a bad week? No, that actually makes it just a week. It's life.
Yeah.
And it's not, life happens. It's how I handle life that matters. And I felt like I handled life right.
Yeah.
That was good.
Awesome. Not awesome.
And with
fight, but awesome that you guys
Yeah.
But those things are, they happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And
why do they happen? Reasons.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is the case, but it's like, sometimes they just have to happen. There are just sometimes two people just have to have a strong disagreement, and then you work it out and you move on, or you just, bury it and have deep brooding for a long time, whichever,
Yeah, whichever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's to me, it gives me gratitude, and it makes me, grateful for my relationship. I am married to the person that I love, that I want to spend the rest of my life with, that I want to get in fights with and get out of fights with. And,
yeah,
really, that's,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. It just seems, you just don't hear that part of it.
Exactly. It's counterintuitive.
It is. Yeah.
But it's the truth. It's like, I would rather have that than, endless brooding and backstabbing and,
Yeah, right? Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like it's someone you can survive fights with rather than someone that's going to lie and backstab. And yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because life is going to happen no matter what. We're going to go through periods of time where things get difficult. And when things get difficult, our personalities get onto a sharp little edge there every once in a while. And things happen. And I'd rather be in a position where I know that no matter how bad it gets, it's going to be all right. That's how I want life to be for me, is that I always have that hope and the knowledge of that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be okay, versus how it used to be, which is why I drank a lot, because everything was doom and gloom and extremes and black and white thinking. And check your distorted thinking checklist, folks.
Yeah, Henno almost just gave you a bingo.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Dude, we should do a distorted thinking bingo.
Geez.
Oh, man.
Come up with bingo cards. You'll probably market this. Copyrighted.
It wouldn't shock me if it already exists.
Probably distorted thinking bingo. Like, could you imagine walking around the house or at your work?
Right.
You're like you're just checking them out. Bingo! I got bingo.
Yeah.
My boss is a dick. Oh, sorry. Penis.
That'd be it too. It literally would be. It's like carried around with you. Anytime you hear something from it, mark it. Like mark it a different color if it comes out of your mouth. Kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep, self-recognition.
Right. That way, at the end of the day, you can go, wow, look at this. I got 4 corners and this, and I covered the whole card myself. Yeah.
Fully covered. That's not good.
Nope.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's like, the only time bingo's bad. The goal is to not get bingo.
Right.
Yep. So you got any more, Hannah?
What do you got going on, Brian?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good.
Well, I'll start with a nice downer. Today's always a rough day for me. Well, I guess technically not now as I look at the clock, but today was a rough day because it's the anniversary of my dad dying, and that's always a real kick in the butt for me. So I've just been kind of meh all day today, but it's one of those days where, much like I've gotten to where I just allow myself to have those depression days sometimes, that it's just one of those days where it's just like, it's okay to be sad today. It's okay to be this way because, it's a significant loss in my life. And even though it's been a long time ago, it still sucks. It still hurts. It's never, I doubt it'll ever not hurt unless, something drastic happens to me, which hopefully won't, like some sort of brain trauma or something. So I've gotten to where that has made it easier. I just don't fight it. I just go with it, and just kind of exist in it. And, because really, it's one of those things that it's like when I look at it, it's like it hurts because of what it is. But then it's like, at some point I look at the calendar again and it says the 9th. It doesn't say the 8th anymore. So then it's like, well, it's no longer the anniversary of the day he died. Even though it's technically still, it's only a matter of hours of difference, but it makes all that difference, So I know at some point, much like we talked forever ago, remember we read that one thing that said, even the worst day of your life can only be 24 hours or something along those lines, and it's kind of along those lines is that I know at some point it becomes the 9th and it resets, So, it's always nice for me when I end up having to do a podcast or something like that, because it does kind of help distract a little bit. But I actually think I did pretty well tonight. I did some cooking, did some other stuff. We're doing the podcast, so it's not I'm just going to be in bed all day, give up kind of day. I at least was productive as well. So, that made me feel even better. So, that right there is easily my win for the week because it's not always that way. Some years I do stuff and it's not so bad. Other years I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to stay in bed all day today. Just put an out of order sign on the door and, yeah. So, I'm trying to think. Other than that, I've been terrible this last week. I've done nothing. Well, I take that back. I've done a few things, but really, for the most part, they're very, uneventful things. Just the tiniest of things. I told Heno last week that I was going to try to do more reading this week. Since last week, I've read 10 comics. I've done no other reading, but at least I read the comics, so at least there was still, at least that happened. I've listened to a bunch of podcasts. A few nights ago, I was actually looking through job listings, which I haven't done in a while, so, and, it's interesting what I realized was there's a lot of jobs in this area that I don't want, and there's a lot of jobs in this area I'm not qualified for. And by don't want, I'm not meaning because I'm snobbish. I'm just meaning that they're just they just sound like terrible jobs, like the ones that are the call center jobs and stuff. When you look up the employers and they've got a consistent 2 out of 5 rating by people who've done those jobs, you know, it's like, ooh, you know, but when you look at the bigger companies, they all tend to have like 4 out of 5, you know, so, and a lot of that, you know, is just probably from people just butting heads with a corporate environment, you know, and then when I read the reviews, most of it, that's what it ends up being. You know, oh, they wanted this and this out of me. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what a workplace does. So, cause that's one thing I was doing is I've been trying to find something where I could work at home to kind of at least get my feet back into the concept of working. And then the next step would be to find something where I'm working, you know, in public again. And I actually saw a couple things where, you know, I could, you know, things I could do that are out in the workforce, but the problem is the things that I find like that pay just terrible. You know, one is, like Goodwill's looking for people to do eBay write-ups for them. I am vastly qualified to do that. Like for what they're looking for, I am incredibly overqualified for what they need, but it pays $9 an hour. And I need to have health insurance, you know, so it's like $9 an hour is not going to buy me health insurance. Or if it does, I'm going to make nothing, basically, you know, so it's like, you know, like these are, and it's tough because I don't have the college degree, you know, I don't have an incredibly impressive resume, you know, so these are things I'm going to have to fight with for a little while. So, you know, we'll see. I don't know.
But hey, you lucked.
I did. Yeah.
Getting closer.
I saved a few things and actually I started putting a resume together because I had one that I was going to update and I can't find it. I think it's on my old computer on the hard drive, so I can't access it. So
Check monster.com because a lot of times an old resume usually is out there too.
That's a good point. I might still have one on there. I didn't think about that. Because I was going to say otherwise, you know, silly me, I never threw it on Dropbox or something like that, you know, which is one of my biggest mistakes. Like I found that with like the podcast stuff too. A lot of the stuff that's just normal stuff for the podcast. I'm like, why didn't I put that in Dropbox? So it's just there if I need it, you know, whatever. Kids, if you have just random documents and stuff like that. I don't mean like tax documents. I'm talking just, you know, like a template for a podcast or something. Just throw it in Dropbox. That way you know, odds are you have a backup. Don't be like Brian. Anyway, so I'm trying to push myself just a little at a time towards this stuff. You know, one thing that really surprised me, doing the job listings though, cause at one point I just looked, I can't remember what search parameter I was using. But one thing that popped up was for, podcast producer. And I was like, huh. And then I was like, just for giggles, I'm going to just type in podcast and just see what all comes up, just cause why not, you know? There was a surprising amount of podcast jobs out there. I'm not qualified for any of them, but because they're like, I went to school for media and whatnot, or sound design kind of, you know, like it's above my pay grade kind of stuff. But I was surprised with how many are out there. So if you're a person out there who actually has like, you know, legitimate skills, not just a, you know, hey, I've done this on my own kind of thing, you might check, you know, job boards for, podcast jobs. Cause I mean, like CNBC, Fox Sports, like the places like that are looking for like people to do some of these things.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And there's a lot looking for like directors for podcasts and all this kind of stuff. So I I was very surprised with how many actual like paying jobs there are for podcast people. You know. Now, I don't know if you'd have to move. I would assume you probably have to be local to wherever they are for those jobs, but I don't know. But still, it was still interesting because my brain I hadn't even thought about that as a potential, moneymaker, you know?
Looked.
Yeah, exactly, right? If I hadn't seen it, I would have never even looked. And like I said, I'm still not really, you know, I don't assume I'm going to make any money that way, but it was still like, oh, cool. I'm glad those are out there for, you know, for some people that actually can make some money off of this. Mm-hmm. You know. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. I can't think much of. Oh, I do have one last thing, which is that I still need to to schedule an MRI, and I can't bring myself to do it. I don't want to go through with it so badly. Like, after going through what I went through, I so don't want to go through anything like that again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So
I know. It's one of those moments, though. You want to just liquid courage to make the appointment. Just do a shot, call them up, say, let's do it.
Yeah. I know. That's the thing is I could totally see myself canceling the day of.
Here's the advice from the crazy life. Get hammered, make an appointment.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way to do it, but
right.
Some days if you just need to take the edge off, I guess. And some people find alcohol is a way.
Take the bull by the horns.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's I hate the fact that I feel that way, but it was just such a bad panic attack. I just don't want to put myself back into that. It felt, you know, it's like I feel like a lot of it is I feel like I've made such good progress over the last couple years that I don't want that. I don't want to feel like if something's going to set me back like that, I'd rather have it be because I tried to drive, you know, or I tried to fly, or, you know, like I feel like I want it to be more of a, like, hey, I'm really throwing myself at a big fear of mine, not, hey, I'm going to get an MRI, you know?
Yeah.
But, it's like I've already lived 40 years with these headaches. I mean, listen, it's, you know, life expectancy's 80 for a guy, you know? Odds are I've hit the halfway point, you know? Like, I figure I can make it.
Don't rationalize it away. Don't do that. You know better.
I know. I actually was thinking I may call, my neurologist's office and talk to him about it and just be like, I just don't know if I can do this. You know, and I might just see if there is potential to where maybe I can just be put under, you know, because like that way I know I can do it because there's I won't feel anything, you know, because it's just like the part that freaked me out is, you know, the thing being right in front of my face. Well, even taking Valium, it's still going to be right in front of my face. That doesn't change. You know?
The amount you care about it will.
Yeah, but I don't know if that'll be enough. You know, so I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I may call and talk to them first. You know? It's,
from what I've been told,
Whoa.
Sorry about that, folks. I touched a cord. From what I've been told about like pain and managing pain with herbal supplements of the edible kind, what I've been told is that it's not that it takes the pain away, but it makes you forget why you have the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it would be a similar situation with the Valium, that maybe it won't take it all the way, but it'll take, you know, you won't as much, thankfully, you know, maybe it would affect you that way.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, going to the next phase of our show, I think, Henno, you have the article for us this week, right?
Yes, I do.
Yay.
We're going back to Psychology Today, psychologytoday.com, and talking about psychological first aid, also known as PFA. How to help family and friends cope with stress and crisis. So I recommend that people go actually check our link, in the show description, hit the link, go read this article. It's really, I think it's a fascinating article, and it's also has useful information. We're not going to go into all of it, but the idea being is that, what is psychological first aid? Its best ways to conceptualize PFA is as the psychological health analog to physical first aid. And it's like applying a psychological bandage. So PFA may simply be defined as a supportive and compassionate presence designed to do three things: stabilize, prevent the stress from worsening; mitigate, de-escalate or dampen the acute distress; as well as three, facilitate access to continued supportive care if necessary. So this is not about diagnosing anyone, treating anyone, but just like physical first aid, it requires some basic training to be effective and reduce the risk of inadvertently making things worse. And so this is something that this is really for people that, work for crisis hotlines and things like that. They get trained in this. How do you deal with a phone call? But I thought that they've got a list here of 15 do's and don'ts where they just make sense for those of us at any time we have friends, family that we may find in a distressful situation, whether it's from anxiety, it could be from, something bad happened, just even fear, something's just on your mind and the person just needs some help. And I know for myself, I'm better at it, but it's always been one of the worst things is to be confronted with someone that is in a distressed situation. Mm-hmm. And you want to say the right thing to help them, but you don't know what to do or don't do. So here we have some tips that we're going to go through.
Awesome.
Yeah. So first thing they recommend is do remain calm when speaking to a person in distress. Show concern, but be a confident, reassuring presence. The other person will gain confidence from your confidence.
That's a good point. And it's difficult because I'll be honest, I'm one of those people that I'm very empathetic. So if someone is upset, it's very easy for me to be pulled into that as well. And that can escalate things more than it can diffuse things. So it's definitely something that's difficult for me, but definitely something to work on.
This reminded me of when you watch like those shows where they talk about helping your animals, like when they're stressed, like if they're scared, is if you're confident, they'll glean that from you. If you act scared, they'll act scared. They kind of just pick up on your emotion. So it's kind of the same thing.
I think it's a fine line too to kind of bridge that gap on, one side is taking on the person's emotions, whether it's sadness or fear or anxiety, versus coming across as a little too confident and therefore aloof or not, being compassionate. And I think there's a fine line in there where you can show that you're there, and that you can be a source of strength for the person. Even though they're upset, but that you obviously that you care. I mean, there's just got to be a lot of practice that comes, goes into that.
Yeah.
But the one thing, Jen, you said was tip number 2 is don't get caught up in the situation. Remember, the antidote for stress is calm and confidence. So if the person is standing there with their head on fire, probably not a good idea to run up and go, "Oh my God, your hair's on fire! Let's both panic!"
Right.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
It's not.
No, it's tough to kind of keep, like you said, find that balance between the two. Because I'll be the first one to cry with you, and just that's who I am. But I know that's not what the situation calls for a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is do listen, encourage, not pressure the person to talk about what happened and their reactions to what happened, which I think is a great little part of that tip. Is not only say what happened to you, but what was your reaction to this? Why, if the person does not want to speak at that time, ask if you can check back with them later, which is another great thing. Give people that opportunity. If they want to talk, that's great. If not, can I check? Don't say like, well, give me a call if you want to talk. I think it's a great way to say is, all right, I understand you're not willing to talk about this. Can I call, can I get back in touch with you in an hour or a couple hours and check in with you?
Right.
And that's another great way of letting someone know that you do care about them and that they're not alone, that you're not just going to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives them that opportunity to maybe marinate on it a little bit.
And I've been known to send out little text and messages and things like that, just thinking of you, hope all that is well. Let me know if I can be, if you need to talk or want to talk or something like that. And just kind of keeping it very loose, nothing too concrete, just so they know that they're in my thoughts, my mind, and that I'm here, and just kind of remind them of my presence. It's like, I'm still here. I'm right here if you need me, type of a thing. And that's been pretty effective.
Let's see. Number 4 is don't interrupt unless the disclosure seems to be escalating the distress. I think that's pretty good advice. If the person, sharing the situation, what happened, or the reaction to it is elevating the emotions, then maybe it is worth interrupting. But otherwise, it's all about being a good listener. Let the person download.
Yep.
And that, I'll say the main way that, for my own experience, that I had to learn to not interrupt was don't try to fix the person. Don't try to fix them. Just listen. See, number 5 is do try to identify the worst part of the situation. If possible, do this carefully, but it will help you identify the core issues at hand if they are not otherwise obvious. And I think that's a great advice for any discussion is, oftentimes when we're in a stressed out situation or we're just emotional, whether it's angry or whatever it is, our brain can start going everywhere else, or getting sidetracked or getting into the weeds on something, where that's not really the core part of what the cause is. And to try to, get past all that smoke, so to speak, and get to where the fire is I think it's very important, and to stick to it, to not allow it to get distracted from that.
Mm-hmm.
See, number 6 is don't rush. If the person is medically stable and safe, the passage of time alone begins to de-escalate situations. And I think that's really big is, along with, I don't need to talk. I don't need to make things happen. Oftentimes, I just need to be there for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the timeline is not mine to decide. If I'm really willing to be there for someone, I'm willing to spend the time with them. And like I said, sometimes it's just a matter of time alone. Just being in someone's presence can just help.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that I know people joke about Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
A variety of meanings behind it. Yeah. Honestly, sometimes that's what has to happen is just you throw on some Netflix or something that you both enjoy and just be. Yeah. Just be in that moment and just be. Yeah. And, maybe make it something that you've seen before. So it'd be nice and easy. The person, all of a sudden, something triggers, they want to talk. Then you guys can pause and start and have a conversation. If not, that's cool too. And just be in that moment.
Yeah. That's great. There's nothing better to me. There's nothing better, no better feeling than even if I did have something going on, is you have something more important to do than sit here and listen to me. It's like no, I don't.
Right.
I'm exactly where I want to be right now, and I love that feeling. Number 7, very important thing: don't be dismissive. Don't minimize their concerns. Don't say, well, at least, as an attempt to distract or help the person feel better. I just think that is so important.
Yeah.
You know, when whatever a person is feeling is what they are feeling. And sometimes even what they're thinking is what they're thinking. Even though it might not be the right way to look at it at that time, there is nothing that's going to help by minimizing or trying to correct them or, their thoughts or their feelings.
Yeah, like I've mentioned on here.
It doesn't help.
Yeah, like I've mentioned on here before about, that how a lot of us have been kind of trained to reframe with well, it could be worse, And, like I said on Tell 'em Steve Dave, when Brian Johnson was like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it doesn't suck now,
Exactly.
And it's like, exactly. And that's why,
so true.
It's like, even though you're coming from a good place, trying to help the person reframe with that, and it is most of the time, it really is somebody going, it could be so much worse, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but it's really bad for me right now. Like, and it's kind of like I need you to see this, like I need you to see, I feel this is bad, and that's the important part. Is just recognizing that they don't, people don't need you to compare their situation to something else or make it, like it says, don't minimize. And that's essentially what people don't realize how that is minimizing, cause again, they're trying to come from a good place and show you that it's not as bad as you think it is. It's like, hey, this, you can get up, you can fight this, you can, like kind of a thing. And it's, it's kind of like oh, you have a small thing of cancer on your arm that has to be removed. And someone's like, yeah, but it's still cancer, And it's like, yeah, but at least it's not this. Yeah, but it's still cancer, don't minimize that it's cancer, even though, yeah, it could be a whole lot worse. It's still, let them have their moment to kind of process what's going on,
So number 8 is don't act on some preconceived notion of what you think the person needs. Ask what they need. Perspective taking such as this will foster trust. I think that's a great little last sentence there is, that take help the person with their perspective, not what you think it is, and gain their trust. And it's just the truth. Again, you're asking what they need, what they're going through. That's their reality. That's the truth. Let's see. 9, don't hesitate to ask specific questions about the person's ability to competently attend to others, meaning significant relationships, child care, elder care, or perform the duties of their job. And that's something that I know that's a question that I've asked before when I've encountered someone that was in a rough spot, whether it was someone that in an addiction or something like that. It's like, hey, are you able to take care? Are you do you need some help? Are you able to take care of your kids today? Are you going to be able to make it to work? Can I make a phone call for you? Anything like that? If they're able to even process that, I think it's definitely worth asking.
Yeah, especially if they do a job where, someone else could be at risk.
Or themselves.
Yeah, or themselves. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And because it's also it could be it could be an additional stress on the situation, and you might be able to alleviate it. Or the other part of it might be that it can also kind of, I know for myself when I've dealt with people that were, as far as like doing work with other, people that are actively alcoholic, there's really no point in talking to anyone when they're drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's like you want to catch them the next day when they're at their, they're really at their weakest. they're emotionally low, because that's when this is the truth. That's when you're most willing to get help, right? Is the next day, not that night. And so sometimes even just bringing up like, hey, do you have to work tomorrow? It's like sometimes it snaps them back into reality a little bit, and out of that funk, like, what did I do? My life's going to, and it's a little baby step that can be taken. Next one's a very important one that we talk about a lot, is don't hesitate to ask about intention to harm self or others. Seldom will this be an issue, but sometimes you may sense feelings of profound helplessness, hopelessness, depression, anger, or vindictiveness. In such cases, it's important to inquire and follow up. In the most rare and extreme cases, you may have to help the person get immediate medical or law enforcement intervention.
So important to understand intent and where things are going. Read the situation. Always err on the caution. Just be careful and be cautious, but take action as needed. Don't be afraid to take action.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it before. I think, Brian, you've brought it up where it's like, ask the direct question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ask that question. And that you're going to get, if they've been thinking about it, you're probably going to get a yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see, number 11, don't make promises you can't keep. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're trying to build some trust with somebody. If somebody is in a place like that and you are the ability to be that confident, calm self, don't ruin it by making stuff up.
Yeah. That's just good advice anyway.
Yeah.
It's one thing for, like if, you're a baseball player telling a kid you're going to go hit him a home run or something, but, don't, I don't know. Just tell people you'll try your best. You'll do your best. That's all you can do anyway, so.
Yeah, don't engage, don't create fantasies to try to, I think that's the main point here too. It's like, don't make up fantasies. Don't make up situations in some hope that you can paint a pretty picture and get them out of it. It's like, it's gonna come back around.
Right. Especially if you've got somebody who mentally is already down.
Yeah.
Because they may overreact to, a bad outcome or whatever. Yeah. Or non-favorable outcome, I guess I should say. Whatever.
So 12, do determine what else, if anything, is needed after your initial conversation. Don't hesitate to ask for guidance or assistance from a healthcare professional if you are worried about the person's well-being. And this is something that we talk a lot about with alcoholism is people need hospitalization.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who stop drinking, who are daily drinkers, your body replaces your water with the booze. And when the booze is not there, organs can literally shut down and fail. People can die from stopping, from basically, going cold turkey from drinking. So it is something that, at least in my isms, it's something that is very important. But if you've been in a situation where someone's in a bad spot like that, finding out from somebody, looking into some guidance yourself, can be useful because, once again, we're not professionals. We're not trained in this,
right.
But, we might be the first person to talk to somebody, and so therefore try to help out as much as possible.
And it may give you peace of mind also, Yeah. It may give you a peace of mind too that, that you're doing the right thing, essentially, Yeah,
and this says, do serve as a liaison to connect person with continued assistance if necessary. And I think that's very important, is help you see it through, Like if do you want to talk to somebody? Can I get a hold of you? Maybe you end up getting the phone number for the therapist and helping them make an appointment. You might even take them there.
I was just going to mention that. Yep. Offer to go with them.
Or you, yep. And if it's a medical thing, again, offer to help with that too. If you do have facilities, more advanced facilities, like for emergency, situations, and even if it's rehab hospitals or different type of hospitals like that, if you can, continue to be that liaison, it can take a big load off of, someone that's in a stressful situation. Let's see, number 14, do advocate for this person in seeking further assistance if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And with what Jen said, the last one is do follow up a day or so later to see how the person is doing.
And a big thing that I do, and I say a lot, because it's a lot of times you run out of things to say, you don't know what to say, or it may not be the most comfortable situation. So you have a tendency to kind of fill the air with stuff. Sometimes what I go back to is, I hear you. I'll say that a lot. And especially in situations I may not 100% agree with what the person is saying, but I know they need to say it. That's their reality. That's their world. They need to express themselves and however they need to. And so I will make sure that I acknowledge what they're saying, and sometimes you can repeat back to them kind of what they're saying, but I hear you it works well, because that's a lot of times what people need. They need to hear that they are being heard. And they need, I understand where you're coming from. I can hear what you're saying. I see why you're upset. These are important things that you're not necessarily saying you agree with them. So if you don't agree, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But you're acknowledging their feelings. You're acknowledging where they're at. And that's a huge step for a lot of people.
Yep. And you're not trying to fix them. You're not diagnosing them. You're not offering therapy. You're not doing, you're literally just being there for them in what their situation is.
Right.
Yes.
And that's really all that we can do. And then try to see as, like it says, do you need some more assistance, or, can you do that? Cause like in the end, it says this is not a substitute for mental health care, but years of research and experience have shown that PFA can be a useful tool to assist people in acute distress when applied by those with proper training in PFA. And that's the last thing I want to say is, it's like I have a friend that does that works for a crisis hotline, and she went through a lot of training, and there's a lot of specific things that that she learned to do, not to do, what to say, what not to say. But like I said, any of us at any time could come in contact with someone that's in a distressful situation, especially like for myself, I'm involved with sober people. I'm going to run into people that are having, that fell off the wagon, or, have had a bad situation, or coming back in. It's like, I may be the first person in a room. I could be waiting for a meeting and somebody comes in and they're having the worst day of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think any of us can, if we're around other people with mental health issues or things like that, we may be the first person to, be in touch with someone.
Yeah. You touched on something I was going to say. I was actually going to say, I wanted to add number 16, which is don't diagnose. But you covered that because that's so important too. We're not, trained professionals here. So let them do the diagnosing. If the person you're talking to, is trying to diagnose themselves, kind of nudge them that direction also, that, that you should let the doctors handle that, because again, as we've said on here plenty of times, a lot of mental, health issues are very, very similar. A lot of them have the same symptoms. So, you may be ignoring a symptom that is the difference between one and a different one. So try not to diagnose that. As we've said on here plenty of times, don't self-diagnose, don't diagnose other people. Leave that to the professionals. And the other thing you kind of mentioned that I liked was the, something here too is like, if you help, if we all kind of help people, we all know people who we look at and go, they really could use some help, whether it's therapy or just, a group, whatever it is, like you could just tell they could use some help. And, but they won't. They're resistant to it. But it's like, if you help them, over time, you may be able to kind of broach that topic again and be like, hey, this is what they do in therapy, or this is what they do. Like Henno, he could be like, hey, this is what we talk about in my group, and maybe be like, why don't you come sit with us one night and see what, kind of a thing, you might be able to kind of, that might help bridge the gap a little bit to where the people may, you may help them get help down the road a little bit by, kind of introducing them to what the help is, since so many people still have the wrong idea of what help actually is,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good.
Yeah. A lot of times also it might be the opportunity, after you've been, if you can, my experience is if I can be there for somebody and, not try to fix them and just allow them to be in whatever they're feeling. And once the immediate stress or fear, whatever it is, calms down, ultimately I will get asked a question, about what did I do or something like that. And then I can offer my experience. But once again, I'm not trying to fix them. I'm not trying to, I'm not making promises. I'm just sharing my experience with something and my direct experience with it. I'm not going to pretend that something happened, anything like that. And it makes it actually very easy because I either have experience with it and I've been through it, or I haven't. Mm-hmm. And if I haven't, that's when I recommend somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's when I say, well, you know what? I know someone that went through a similar situation like this. Would you like to talk to them?
Yeah. And I've had some people online where they've sent a friend to me, and said, hey, or they've asked me first, I don't want to, and just been like, hey, I got a friend who's going through something like you did, can I refer them to you because, they were resistant to therapy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm, yeah, sure, and it was mainly because they want me, to kind of be like, hey, look, I didn't like the idea either, but it's done a lot of good for me, kind of a thing, and it's not going to work for everybody. What I got out of therapy, what's worked for me, may not for them, because maybe they don't have the same mindset I had going in. Our issues may not be the same, their therapist may not be as good as mine or whatever, there's all those things, but, still, like Henno was just saying, it's like, if you recognize those things, though, sometimes we can help each other in that light, to some, I actually had somebody ask me some stuff, and it was stuff about like PTSD kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know much at all about that. I'm like, but I can, I'm like, if you don't know, I can point you toward, again, toward like NAMI and different organizations out there that they'll help you find somebody, because I can't, I'm not going to try to pretend I know what's going on with that stuff, because I don't, I mean, I'm more than willing to listen to anybody who needs an ear, but I'm not going to try to, first of all, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. So, but I also don't know, but I've definitely learned over the years, like it said in there, to just ask, like, what do you need? What do you need me to do? What do you need from me? 'Cause it really just cuts through everything, You know, instead of sitting there trying to figure it out yourself or asking weird questions or, you know, assuming, you're just like, what do you need from me? And the person can just tell you, you know, and there you go. It's just nice and easy that way. And then you can get to the heart of things, you know, especially if the person's kind of in a bad way right then, you know, try to help them as quick as possible.
Always a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
That was a cool set of little tips there.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah.
We good, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, you know what the time it is, folks. If you want to continue the conversation, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylife.weebly.com, or sorry, thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me at Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G, or at Tits with the Tits, whichever you prefer. And you, Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno, or you can look for El Heno. You can find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. And if you're not sure what time it is, it's always time to get ill.
You know, it's funny to me now is like whenever someone says, what time is it? The thing that pops in my head now is it's Adventure Time, because I've watched that cartoon so many times now, you know. You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language on Twitter, or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so be warned. You can find this show's Facebook group over at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. So come join us over there or something. Where is it? We're part of the Tangent-Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. Go check that site out and check out different podcasts over there. You may find some others that you enjoy. You know, or don't. Whatever. I don't care. If you're using, well, however you get our podcast, whether it's through Apple Podcasts or Google Play or whatever it is, if it has a rate, review, or subscribe option, please use those. We would greatly appreciate it. We'd also appreciate it if you share our Twitter or Facebook posts with your friends, or just tell them about our show to help us maybe get some more listeners. You know, come on, be our pals. Do it. And then, of course, you know, as I usually tells everybody here, you know, if you need help, please seek it out. You know, I know it's easier said than done. I've done it. I know it's super hard, but please do. And if, you know, please reach out to your friends that you know are going through a rough time, or have had recent hardships, but also reach out to the ones that are always telling you that they're fine, because a lot of times that's a mask that people hide behind. You know, but just reach out to people, tell them you care, tell them that you love them, just see how they're doing, and, you know, just do what you can to just, spread some kindness around. You know, let's do what we can to fight back all these waves of hate that seem to be going around right now.
Oh, amen to that.
Man.
Preach on, brother man. Oh, there's some rough stuff happening. So, yeah, everybody, take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Don't forget to wiggle those toes, or maybe wiggle the nose. Something to make you smile. And have a good week.